Hey guys, this is A Crime Through Time, and this is the first, I think, in a series called Miss Darcy Investigates by Amelia Blackwell. So the story is Pemberley, 1799. Georgiana Darcy, trying to escape from an unwanted marriage proposal, finds herself catapulted through time to Saltram in 1995, where a film crew is adapting or filming a Jane Austen adaptation. When she's the only witness to a crime there, she realizes that she's been sent back in time, forward in time, sorry, to investigate. With the help of a handsome Irish love interest called Quinn and a border collie called Watson, she's on the case. But is time on her side? Amelia Blackwell is a great lover of Jane Austen, and this book is the first in a new series, with a second book, The Haunting of a Bronte, coming out later this year. Blackwell is the descendant of Baron John de Halliwell, whose name is used for that of Georgiana's suitor. Georgiana is, of course, Mr. Darcy's younger sister from Pride and Prejudice, and the book takes place after the events of that story, while Elizabeth is pregnant with Darcy's and her first child. That was a mouthful. And Georgiana is 20 and facing being married off to an eligible bachelor. The story features little appearances of characters from Pride and Prejudice, with part of the narrative taking place in the 1700s and part in the 90s, or 1995 specifically. I don't always love this rehashing of texts like Austen or Conan Doyle in other stories. They often seem to borrow the characters and places of those authors without the, meaning, context, or full comprehension of the original text. And the pieces get moved around and reused until they kind of lose all sense and meaning and are just like a dark facsimile of themselves. Like if you stick something in the photocopier and re-photocopy it time and time again until it's just blurry. Anyway, so I was cautious going into this one. But, I decided to have a sense of humor about it. Since the book seems to be sharing a knowing wink with the reader, it's just having fun. The first thing that you notice about this book is that it tries to gently mimic the style and verbiage of Jane Austen and her contemporaries, but in a nice way. It's not trying too hard or anything. It feels natural, but it helps to evoke the feeling of sinking into Pemberley and Georgiana's mind or her mindset. In the early parts of the book, Georgiana compares some characters she meets in the 90s to ones from Pride and Prejudice's story world. So Quinn reminds her a bit of Elizabeth, and she immediately feels comfortable with him, while the producer Clinton reminds her of Wickham, and so that gives her the creeps. All of this is to evoke the world of Jane Austen's story, and it has a certain style to it that, while not really Austen, it feels cozy and it gives the book like a narrative style that's quite nice. This book is broken up into lots of very short chapters, giving the story a sort of staccato style on the whole. It's paced well, drops us into the action right away, and gives us little bits of story and drama and intrigue as we go. The plot does meander a little bit, though. While I really liked Georgiana's youthful can-do attitude and willingness to get into investigating, she does this about as well as any 20-year-old might, wandering around and rushing here and there with no real idea how to go about an investigation, which makes sense given that she's, 20 and from the 1700s and has never, been exposed to a murder, let alone investigating anything. In the end, she stumbles onto the answer to the mystery, which all feels a little bit rushed in the end. And you couldn't really have used the clues in the story to figure out the ending. It's that kind of a mystery story. The romance part of this novel is quite nice. Quinn is a lovely, kind-hearted, and friendly Irishman, classical romance novel handsome, if you know what I mean, without being vain. And there's the drama of not knowing what he knows. He seems honest and trustworthy, but could he be the killer? It adds a little frisson to the narrative, and I liked the melodrama of her perhaps having to marry someone awful in her own time while having a potential real love story in another. It's dramatic, and it works well for this kind of story. So, if I'm being a little bit nitpicky, there are some small problems in the novel. A 20-year-old from 1799 would not have been exposed to crime or its investigation and would probably realistically find this more frightening than exciting, I would guess. Um, Technically, Georgiana seems a little bit too worldly for a girl of her time, age, and station in life. She also has the problem of having to stop and figure out what all of the things she sees around her in the modernity of the 90s are, which can slow down the narrative sometimes. It's kind of like, yeah, we know. We know she doesn't know. And she often can't comprehend what people are talking about at all because of modern idioms and slang, which means she would in reality make a really poor investigator because so often after a little bit of dialogue, she'll be like, I didn't understand any of what that meant. And it's like, okay, well then how are you going to, how are you going to move forward from there? But I think if you're reading this book, you know that it's just meant to be cozy and Austen-esque, a mystery series with a theme, not Jane's book itself. So I don't know. It's fun to just go with it and let it be, like it's not trying to be something it's not. And it's got a vibe. It's kind of fun. So yeah, on the whole, this was a nice bit of escapism. It's a gentle read that's like nicely paced and dramatic, and it's got that nice romance plot line, beautiful houses, the occasional appearances of the helpful border collie, and this sort of hints of magic and stuff as well, like the time travel stuff. The book left some things open-ended for the next book, and yeah, I'm curious to find out what happens with those plot threads, which I wasn't sure that I would be when I picked this one up, honestly. I thought, I may not like this. I'm not really, maybe it's target audience, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see where it goes next, and I'm happy to kind of put aside, just enjoy the coziness and the vibes rather than trying to be not overly critical, but, overly nitpicky. You know what I mean? Anyway, this one is for cozy mystery lovers. Maybe if you like sort of time travel or Regency stuff or stories set in the 90s, a lot of the book or most of the book happens in the 90s. If you're a more serious sort of Austen fan or classic literature fan, this one might annoy you. It might not be for you. But I really do think this will find sort of an audience that are just going to enjoy sinking into this and just having fun with it. So yeah, if this is you, keep an eye out for this book and this series. And thank you to PGC Books for the copy of this book for review. I really appreciate it. Are you an Austen fan? Do you like classic literature? I absolutely love all of the classics, I think. I've, loved dipping into those. Always have. I can be a little bit of a purist sometimes, a little bit of a book snob around the edges, maybe when it comes to those books. So are you like that as well? Or are you more, easygoing and just happy to go for a ride with a book, be taken on a little journey? Let me know. And if you're a Pride and Prejudice or a Jane Austen fan or a Bronte fan, I'd love to know in the comments. And yeah, thank you for joining me.